Hello and welcome to Insomnia Insight number 362, a really powerful set of messages that we're going to go over today. They are from Evan, one of my current clients. I really wanted to share this with you, and I asked Evan, of course, if that was okay, because it really highlights how you can have a magical moment. And, a magical moment is something that can be one of two things. A magical moment is often an experience. It is when someone says, for example, I was really anxious yesterday. I went to bed with no particular expectation, just kind of closed my eyes and boom, I slept like a long time. That's kind of a magical experience when you see that sleeping well comes from nowhere, from kind of no expectation and no effort. Another magical moment is the realization of something. It is, for example, when someone realizes that, I can have a pretty good day even if I don't sleep that much. Why am I struggling so much to get more sleep? That could be a real magical moment too, and an insight that leads towards a path of like less effort and sleeping well. But sometimes, it can be even kind of a magical moment that's even more profound, a moment where you kind of see everything for what it is. You completely realize why you got into this bind, why you have had so much struggle. And that can be really like a profound change. We've seen that before on this channel when we talked to Sasha Stevens, author of the Effortless Sleep Method. She had that moment when she was out kind of on, it was not really camping, but she was kind of on an outside, in the outside environment for a while. And Michelle, who was also a guest, she had that, actually she heard something on this channel where it kind of everything changes. And this is one of those real profound moments that I want to share with you from Evan, and then we can learn a little bit from it as well. And if you want to hear those other ones by Sasha Stevens and Michelle as well, check the success stories playlist that is in the description here. But back to Evan. So Evan is one of my current clients on BedTyme, and to give you a little bit of background, starting to work with Evan, it was one of those times where you have a client that is actually in a very active phase of insomnia. There's a lot of anxiety. Things are kind of quite chaotic. A lot of things are happening, and a lot of emotions, a lot of thoughts. So we started working on the typical teaching that I always share here. Befriending wakefulness and understanding that with insomnia, the brain has started to believe that being awake is a threat, and the more you try to escape that, the more trouble you have. That perceived threat model. And the first couple of days, Evan was like really giving me like literally like point by point, like a summary of what happened each night. And I think like at some point I remember Evan said like, okay, that was night 2. I'll come back with night 3 tomorrow. And then I said, Evan, I of course I want to hear everything that's going on. But that said, insomnia really thrives on attention. So it is when you don't try to kind of analyze your night that things go really well. So that's a little backdrop. And one more thing, actually, one thing that I know was causing a lot of pressure for Evan to sleep was that he has a demanding job and he has to drive for work, and he was very afraid that if he doesn't sleep, if he has a sleepless night, he's not going to be able to function, but also very afraid of the drive. He wasn't going to be able to drive to work. So he had said that, I think when that happened, he typically asked his wife to drive him to work. So that's a little background. So let's read this message now from Evan that came in. I think it was a few days ago then. Okay, let's read this. Okay. So you can see actually, but Devin is on day 8 of the program here. And he said, "Good morning, Daniel. The overnight questions remain, but the night was terrible. But this morning has been a personal awakening. I'm going to collect my many thoughts and put them in writing for you." This was like 5:19. And by the way, Evan pointed out to me that, the messages in the app actually has a timestamp on it, which we're going to take out at some point because, the timeless way is always the way. But anyway, we can see that, about an hour later, Evan writes back and says, "I took time this morning to download my thoughts in a way I feel today is a very important day in my life. I am reminded by a centuries-old maxim, it is always darkest before the dawn. Last night was one of the most terrible nights of insomnia thus far, extra sinister in that it followed 2 preceding more hopeful nights. Yet despite being nearly sleepless, I experienced a palpable personal awakening this morning. This morning, I fully realized that I have been a slave in my own prison, shackled by bonds, forged by my own brain's hand, locked in a prison surrounded by bricks fashioned of my own anxiety. Those bricks were sealed by the tight mortar of chronic work and family stress. It is a prison whose walls have long proven as impenetrable as they have been invisible. But today I broke out, not alone, but with help from the inside. Somehow, something in my subconscious knew that of all days, today's was the exact sort of day which has caused me recent panic attacks, working in a location which would test my ability to safely drive and perform my most difficult tasks. Of all days to have profound insomnia the night before, this was the day I feared the most. That certain something knew it and slipped in a file in my cake this morning by choreographing the night which would force me to face my ultimate fear. So I peeled myself from the sweat-soaked sheets with a conviction such as I have never had before. Coming out of the shower, my wife met me with the obvious assumption that she would be driving me to work. I told her today, it is not that day. I have to do this. I have to go or I will be haunted again and again. Today, this all comes to end. Today is the day I break free from my brain, my warden, my misguided protector. I rolled off the driveway, breaking through bonds of my own psyche, and came to work. And it is fine, and it will be fine. I hold no illusion that this is all over. The subconscious hounds will continue to hunt me nightly, and I will continue to evade them, getting wiser by the evening. I'm committed to never giving up, but they will. At some point, they will become exhausted themselves, give up the chase, and I will finally be free. I've ironically said that my insomnia is a gift. Today, I was proven right. When I got this message, it was so powerful. I just sensed that this truly was a big moment for Evan, and that when this happens, when a client sees things for what they are, that things may be bumpy, but they are on a very good trajectory. So I think there are kind of like two things I want to really point out here, which is that you can see how Evan, he realized that he was so afraid of not being able to drive to work. And that caused him so much pressure to sleep. And he realized that he had to do that to prove to himself that, he could, even if he slept little, and that would kind of relieve the pressure. And it's like that facing your fear, facing the thing that you really fear is the way to teach the brain that there actually isn't anything to fear, That is the only way to teach the brain that there is no real threat, no enemy, etc. Now, the other thing, I wanted to talk about was like, how do you have a magical moment like this, like a magical insight, And the thing is, they are important. Magical moments are important. Those, they kind of like give you kind of a nudge forward, But you, of course, cannot make it happen. Like the way I thought about this was, how does a child understand that an apple is called an apple? Well, you can't, a young child that doesn't speak that much, the only way you can really teach them is to show them an apple and say kind of apple, apple, apple. And then finally the child goes, apple. And how did they do that? How did they realize that this is called an apple? And how did they realize how they're going to form their lips and everything like that? We don't know. It kind of happens by magic, but it comes from kind of like, you can point them in that direction. Like this is it. And that's really what sleep coaching is all about. With Evan, for example, he learned about like, perceived threats and befriending wakefulness. And then at some point, the brain just synthesizes this, and you have these like magical realizations. So my message becomes, if you study, learn, you find the courage to do things that seem a little uncomfortable and counterintuitive, and these magical moments will come your way. So I want to thank Evan so much for letting me share this really powerful set of messages. And with that said, we'll be back tomorrow with Coach Michael for open class. And we're preparing our first workshop, which will probably be next weekend, but we'll announce that, of course. And for anyone that likes our teaching here but wants some more support on their path towards sleeping really well, check out our self-coaching master program, which is a where you join a group of people that are studying together with you. that can be really a nice support there. And you also, of course, have BedTyme, the app where I work with Evan here. That's a great option too if you like communicating via text, etc. So with that said, I want to thank you so much for tuning in and hope to have you back real soon. Until then, take it easy.